We are live here at the headquarters of Scarce City. I am your host today, Chris Tremount, Chief Executive Pleb of Scarce City. We are getting off to a little bit of a late start because I was talking to myself for the past 3 minutes thinking that I was live streaming. It turns out I wasn't. So I got a nice dress rehearsal in. We'll take it from the top. Before we welcome on our very special guests, the artists of the Bitcoin Bhavacakra, Chiefmonkey, Yonat, and Mosaic Rocks. They will be walking us through the many details of this amazing artwork. Before we do that, I do want to give a quick rundown of how Lightning auctions work. The auction is live. We are accepting bids. If you want to place a bid, come down here, input how much you want to bid in sats. We do the sats math for you and tell you how much collateral you will need to deposit with your bid. You'll input an email address with your bid. If it's your first time placing a bid with this email address, you'll also input a display name. The display name is what shows up in the bid table. Your email address stays private, and the email address is just so we can verify the winner. So as long as you have access to it, it's all good. From there, when you select place bid, you will be directed to BTC Pay server, where you can pay a Lightning invoice for your bid deposit. You can also pay on chain, but expect to pay high fees on that. And we do not accept those on-chain bids within the final 15 minutes. And those on-chain bids need to confirm within the auction time limit. So Lightning is definitely the way to go here. All right, we have some hot action already. We have 3 bids in the bid table: Epoxy, Marcus Connor, Satoshi Resort. The winning bid right now is 300,000 sats, but we are just getting started. Without further ado, I will welcome on our very special guests, Yonat, Chiefmonkey, and Mosaic Rocks. How are we doing?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, hello, mate. Good, mate. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Yonat, are you there?
Yonat.
Yonat, if you're there.
Yeah, sorry, I was talking to myself as well.
Yep, it's the pleb stream. We're all learning together here. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for creating this amazing artwork and auctioning it off for us today. Very excited for the next 24 hours, and very excited to learn more about this artwork. You have so many details into this, and it's such a pleasure to have you all to talk us through every single detail. So before we jump into all those details, let's start off with very brief introductions. Chiefmonkey, since you're the Lightning auction veteran here, maybe you can start us off. How did you get into Bitcoin, and how did you get into making Bitcoin art?
I think everyone has a story, really, and I don't think I really have a story. But I was down the, there's many rabbit holes in life, isn't there? And I was down the truth-seeking rabbit hole of, how is the world working, and what's going on. I was a gold bug. I went into that rabbit hole. I followed themes like dollar vigilante a bit, and so I sort of got into Bitcoin. I don't really remember how, but possibly it was a Max Kaiser or Dollar Vigilante or one of the gold bugs then sort of put me on to Bitcoin about 6 months before Mt. Gox. And, I'd seen things, the Zeitgeist movie. That was a turning point. That really blew my mind apart. And that sent me that whole thing of what on earth is money and all of that, and why does the world work like this? And then when I sort of was watching Mt. Gox, I sort of reading Andreas Antonopoulos he was a big influence, and I sort of then sort of blew up in Mt. Gox, and I just thought, well, Bitcoin's absolutely amazing. I've got to get involved with this. And then Mt. Gox took off. Shit, I've missed it. That's it. It's gone. And then obviously that came crashing down. And it was about a year later, or maybe 6 months later, where I just kept learning and reading and then falling further down the rabbit hole, and eventually made a purchase, in the middle of then. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of partly Goldberg, partly the conspiracy side of our societies, how we're basically essentially run by criminals, that really pushed me towards Bitcoin art, though. It was Bitcoin. I've never been an artist before Bitcoin. Bitcoin literally made me an artist. I wanted to do something. I came from more of a professional background. I had my own business with software developers making software apps, mobile apps. But I turned my back on all that. I kind of got sick of it. It just wasn't my passion, and my passion was basically more humanitarianly led projects. And I had no idea what I was going to do. But with Bitcoin, I just thought, well, at least I can explore the more creative side of me that I had. And God knows how I got into laser cutting. I don't know what inspired me to pick up a laser cutter, other than seeing paper cut art. If you ever seen the art of paper cutting, that was inspiring. And yeah, so that's, I don't know, I've just witted it on there. I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's something. I hope you can find something of meat in there somewhere.
No, and I think it's so amazing how many people never thought of themselves as artists before until they are introduced to Bitcoin, and that gets the artistic juices flowing, and that they become passionate as artists.
Yeah, when you're passionate about something, when you completely believe in what you're doing, I think that opens up floodgates for creativity, no matter what way it comes from. It doesn't have to be art necessarily. It could be writing, which is art, or music. It could be anything, but it doesn't. It could be also something like, if you're a mathematician or a coder, I think coding is art in a way. Do you know what I mean? I think it just, when you go with the flow of what you're interested in and passionate about, follow your heart. I think that's the little secret there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yonat, before we jump to I do have to give Chiefmonkey a shout out. He was the original Scarce City artist and came up with the original idea of using Lightning to under collateralize auction bids. So very special thanks to Chiefmonkey for being one of our early supporters and early visionary for Scarce City. Yonat, how about tell us your story? How did you get into Bitcoin and Bitcoin art?
Well, art, I was making art before I learned about Bitcoin. And my art was always about people, about kind of stories of humanity, what makes us do the things we do, what makes us think, as a society, what makes us create the ideologies we create. And I was always interested in kind of the stories that we tell ourselves as individuals and as humanity. And in 2017, there was a big hack that was called WannaCry. I don't know if everyone remembers that, but it was a big deal in Spain and England especially. There was a big hack of here in Spain. It was the gas company, the telephone company. In England, it was the healthcare system, and so they hacked all these huge databases, and they wanted Bitcoin. And when I read about it, it was like, okay, what's this Bitcoin thing? Sounds interesting. Someone went to all this trouble to get Bitcoin, so let's see what this is about. And that's when I fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I started following loads of people in Twitter, and it was actually, I was looking for a new theme, like a new series to do. And for me in the beginning, it was like, okay, I can do like a little series about Bitcoin. And it turned into a many-year project. And I think my work is basically, when you look at the work from the beginning until now, it's kind of my journey down the rabbit hole. So my work is, I use it as kind of a way to research things. I like to learn a lot about things, and every work is a whole piece that I read a lot of books, and I read a lot of things about it, and It's kind of a process of learning, and I document my learning process through my art. So that's how yes, looks like it's going to be a very long project and not just a little series.
Yeah, you got your work cut out for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
what I love about your work is it does it's sometimes so hard to zoom out while in Bitcoin and just think about, the moment we're in and the potential significance of it. And by looking at Bitcoin in the lens of historical civilizations of the past, it kind of helps ground at least myself when I'm looking at it and understand the parallels of the Bitcoin, renaissance to other moments in history. So just something I find special about your artwork. Chief Monkey, do you want to give an introduction for Mosaic Rocks?
Yeah, she's had a little bit too much to drink, so I think we all have. Mosaic Rocks. She's been a mosaic artist for, I don't know, like 20 plus years, and she's been fairly well established. And she's a Bitcoiner through and through, and she just does amazing work by smashing stuff up and then putting it back together again. So we've worked together on a couple of pieces now. To be honest, she can do really, really cool things, and some of the best stuff she's done is not on her website, but check out Jimi Hendrix. That's on another level. But as a mosaic artist, she's already a known person in her world, not known in Bitcoin. But that's it's okay. It's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I love seeing all of you have such different styles, and it just blends together so beautifully in this piece. So let's jump into the Bitcoin Bhavacakra, and first you can probably correct me on my pronunciation. How do I pronounce this?
Yonat and I had quite.
You have to ask the Dalai Lama. It's a Bhavacakra as well.
There's a Bitcoin balaclava. There's a Bitcoin baklava.
I like that. I can remember that one.
I was pronouncing it wrong for ages.
All right. Well, we'll all be butchering it together. I want to go through, Chief Monkey, your website, hodler.rocks, because you have a great write-up of just the full story here. So starting out, I don't know who's best to answer this. Maybe you can all kind of chime in at some point, but what was the inspiration for doing this work, and why did you decide to collaborate on it?
Yonat, you go.
The inspiration was, so when like I was saying before, when I started doing work about Bitcoin, I started following loads of people on Twitter, and the inspiration for this actually came from a tweet from someone that I think his account doesn't exist anymore, but someone did a tweet thread about the wheel of shitcoin samsara, which was hilarious. They kind of did the whole, when you learn about crypto, you go in, you start, losing money, you sell, you buy the top, sell the bottom, and kind of, it was really, really funny. And he called it the wheel of shitcoin samsara. And I saw that, I was like, wow, this would be an amazing work of art. And I kind of had that in the back of my mind for a while. I mean, this was probably more than a year ago. And there came a point where I was like, yeah, this has to be a piece. And I've been a fan of Chief Monkey for a while, and I love what he does. So I just DM'd him, and I was like, look, this could be a really good piece, and I think if we do it together, it would be really, really cool. And yeah. Chief, you can, the rest is history.
Yeah, no, I was, well, I was honored. I've started a piece, which was, I saw a video, I don't know where to start, I've forgotten the guy's name now. He's a philosopher explaining the dancing Shiva, and I started to make a piece called the Dancing Satoshi, and it's one of the, I've started so many ideas and then put them to one side, and then but that, just as I'd kind of put that to one side, because my laser cutter died on me, and that's why it got shelved. And Yonat at the same time then asked me about this, and I was just like, fucking yes. It was like, you know, I love the idea. I love Far Eastern, you know, well, more Buddhism, but Far Eastern philosophies. I think they have so much more to depth of understanding of the world and life and the universe, you know, the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, than our religions, our, you know, like, you know, Christianity, and just, you know, it's just, I got bored of going to church. When I was a kid, I was kind of forced to go to church, and I never learned anything. I never, you know, and yet Far Eastern philosophies are so much more. Religions are far more philosophical, and so and the imagery as well. I don't know if you've ever been to India, but it's, Jesus Christ, it's the most colourful place on the planet, and I did a bit of growing up there as a kid. So yeah, when Yonat asked me, this is complete. I just thought this is so synchronistic, and Yonat's work as well. She's one of these artists, like, you know, I'm a bit anal about Bitcoin art. You know, I don't like it when people just slap a logo on something and then just trying to cash in on the scene. I like Bitcoin artists who truly understand Bitcoin and are there for the right motives. And so whatever they make, I'll love it for that. And Yonat is someone who like studies. She'll read several books to before making a piece. So if it's about cypherpunk, she's read a couple of books, and she knows what she's talking about. And then when she makes her art, she does her response to that. So that's very inspiring. So when she asked me, I was like, holy shit, I've got to step up a level. You know, I've been into Bitcoin, so much about Bitcoin, but you know, it's always a school day. So we're doing this piece, and it's complex with the original Bhavacakra. There's me saying it wrong again. Bhavacakra. Yeah, it's complex, and you have to, every single piece on it, and there's 21 pieces on the original, and yeah, you have to sort of go deep on each piece. So yeah, I had my work cut out, and I was blown away. That's how it all came about. So yeah. As with working on it, though, we've been chatting for weeks. It's been about 3 months in the making, and every single piece on there, we've kind of have an equal say of what's happened on it. So yeah,
we've had hours and hours of chats about each little brushstroke in this piece.
Single hairbrush stroke.
I can only imagine, just looking at the original that you have here on the website and taking this project on, like, with just how much is going on here, it must be so daunting, and especially in a collaboration. You know, you're creating this together, so making sure every detail is right where it needs to be is just a massive project.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with this. And I think, I mean, a collaboration, especially with an art piece, you know, that you want, because art is something very, very personal, and, you know, you have the way you think it should be. And I think a collaboration has its challenges, but I don't know, I think both of us, we felt so, you know, everything kind of flowed really, really nicely. You know, it was really, really fun. Like, I think we'll all miss this. Yeah, it was a great month, and yeah, it kind of flowed really, really well together.
Well, thankfully, we have this artwork to admire that reflects all of the work done. And, you know, just speaking to that, my personal opinion, I'm absolutely blown away by this thing. You all kept me in secret when you were working on this, so I had no idea what you were working on. And the first time I took a look at it, I could not stop smiling for minutes on end.
Yeah, it's whoever has this in their home, I think they should put it by the front door. So as soon as people walk in, they go, "What the fuck is that?"
There's no better conversation piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I miss. It's the funny thing is, I've not actually seen Yama yet. I've not seen the completed piece because when I made it, like the monster part, when I'd done my part, I made it. You know, there's about like I can't remember now. There's 12 layers in total, I think, but 9 of the main body, and then there's a few layers of the wheel itself. And so when I sent it over to Yonat, it was in 2 pieces. So most of Yama was done, and then the wheel was sort of sat on top, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that was the canvas. So I've not seen it in person complete. Only Yonat, her husband, and the donkey that lives next door has seen the actual piece. So,
a very exclusive viewing.
Yeah, lucky donkey.
Yeah, I walked with it down the street the other day too, so got a lot of looks.
Oh, really? Amazing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, some kids called it a Chinese dragon, though.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so we have so many details here. I want to start jumping into it. I'm going to go in the sequence of the write-up you have here, Chiefmonkey, starting with the meaning of the elements. I understand this to reference kind of the outside of the artwork that's holding the wheel. Do you want to talk us through each of these elements?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to look at my screen or look at your screen if you scroll down a little bit, but so Yama, we didn't know how to do this. Like when we were doing the write-up, it was going to compare the old with the new on every single detail, and then that got a bit complicated. So I'm going to gloss over it. So Yama basically represents impermanence, that things are constantly changing. You can't build an attachment to it too long because it's, you know, we're constantly changing. We're here on the planet for a moment in time, and then we're gone. You know, and so it's like, you know, there's no point in holding on to anything material so much. And Yama is he or she or whatever it is, this monster also works on fear, and one of the biggest the Achilles heel of the human, so to speak, is the ego. So Yama constantly works on fear, or what the human will sort of, you know, how can the monster basically control you with fear and keep you within the wheel, the samsara. And the samsara is because in Buddhism they believe in you know, you keep repeating your lives, but you might appear in different sections of the samsara. And I let Yonat talk about the wheel more specifically, but as a human being, it's like when you get enlightened, you've got to escape the wheel of samsara. And so there's Satoshi in the top right, and giving the you know, the knowledge, passing on the knowledge, and giving you the tools you need to escape the samsara. And so that's the, you know, the flow. I mean, in the original Bhavacakra, there isn't a rainbow under this part of the Bhavacakra, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's artistic license, right? The rainbow is on the other side, and but it's this, for me, it's the flow of color. It's the color of humanity, and so you've got Satoshi there who's delivering the message and the tools for us to escape the samsara. We're then trapped in the fiat samsara, and if, as a human being, if you can lose your ego, that's the greatest thing you can do in life. You know, you often see people talking about magic mushrooms, you experience ego death. But if you can, you know, if you can experience that and just let shit go, you'll be a stronger person. People can't hold you to it, or your system can't hold you to the things that scare you. And so that's what Yama, the monster, is all about, is trying to keep you in a state of fear. Look at what's going on in the world today. Look at money, not just about money, but it's news in general. So if it's wars or pandemics, so there's a constant stream of fear. And so if you can step outside of that, you'll eventually find enlightenment. And so that's where you step out the other side. If you follow the white rabbit, you will generally go down the rabbit hole, learn about what's going on in life. Don't just stick to the mainstream media. Look at alternative media. Use your own intelligence. Be a self-sovereign individual, and you'll find the light. That's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell. I probably waffled a little bit.
No, that's great.
But so I don't know. So and this is where Mosaic.rocks, that's a small T you see on the rainbow. It's they're tiny pieces. It takes hours and hours and hours just to do that bit. It's a lot of work. There's a little silver cloud on the front of there. It's just to say there's a silver, every cloud has a silver lining. The moon is obviously behind the rabbit. That's actually 24 karat gold dust.
Oh, wow.
We dusted the moon and the egg behind Satoshi. I always joke that Satoshi was born from an egg, and that's why he's behind. There's an egg shape behind him, because he was the birth of it all. Scroll down a bit more, and there's this little collection of all the rabbits. Yonat, do you want to talk about why we had so many rabbits?
Well, the idea here is, when you talk about Bitcoin, it's always, go down the rabbit hole, and so we thought we have to have a lot of rabbits showing us where the rabbit hole is. And so there's first of all, the rabbit in the moon. It's part. In the original Bhavacakra, the Tibetan one, the Buddhist one. There's also in some of the pictures, there's also rabbits. So first of all, that's also kind of like from the original one. And then we did so in the rest of the rabbits, the painted ones are in the sixth realm. So we'll talk about that later. But in that realm, there's usually a Buddha in every realm showing people the way to nirvana. So instead of the Buddha, we put a rabbit. So those are the paintings of the rabbits in each realm that we'll talk about later. But then there's the rabbits in the Yama itself, which the moon rabbit, which also comes from the original one, and then the two rabbits on the arms. That the arms are kind of like also rabbit holes that you can see with the different colors.
Awesome. Yeah, I see that. Okay, now you have the 5 poisons.
So we thought, like, basically there's more than 5 obviously, but it's central banks. So the skulls in the original, it's called the 5 poisons. I've just gone for the 5 biggest currencies, but obviously the most important one there is the one in the middle. So we've got the euro, the dollar, the pound, and the yuan. But the one in the middle is the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS. That's the central bank of the central banks. So that's what that's the 5. It's the most. I don't know more to say about it than that. It's money. If you control the money, I can't remember the quote now who it was who said, if you control, I don't care who governs the people, but if you control the money supply, you control the people, sort of thing.
Right.
And that's it. Obviously Yama's got the beautiful third eye, so around about that whole headpiece, there's I think there's about 7 layers. I think we included the cowrie shells, obviously, because the cowrie shells are the original or the earliest form of money. They are sat on flames. Quite often those are flames on the original Bhavacakra. but yeah, and the arms, I put in waves because again, I was wanting to sort of show impermanence. If oceans, waves, forever changing.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's that. Obviously, the rabbits on the arms, just because there's nice detailing showing that there's rabbit holes everywhere in life. The legs, is it the legs on the next section? I'm not sure, but
Yes.
so I put in the two details here. I included basically sort of the blockchain honeycomb design. You see that a lot of places, and I like that as a design. But the cogs, because of the time chain element of basically the blockchain is a gigantic clock. I was fortunate enough to work on a project with Stuart Haber. I don't know if you know Stuart Haber. He's if you read the white paper, there's 8 references, and at the bottom there's 3 of them are Stuart Haber. And
Oh wow.
I had a chat with him one time, and he basically also said it's a gigantic clock. He did the blockchain. He did the mathematics basically behind the blockchain. Yeah, it was a very brief thing, the project I was with him on. But so that's what the cogs are all about. Yeah. So what else? I can't remember what's further down. I'm not scrolling it myself.
You have the rainbows here, but you've already talked a good bit about that, unless you have more to add.
No, keep going.
And I do want to stop on these cowrie shells, because this is one of those things where it took me like 3 or 4 times looking at this piece before I noticed it. It's just an amazing touch to go along with the fiat monies that we're familiar with today.
So the whole thing is, there's oak, there's glass, and there's cowrie shells. They are real cowrie shells. They're not painted on. They are real.
Yeah.
They have value. I don't know how much cowrie shell is worth these days, but no, they're real.
Awesome. And you have the fang.
Yeah, I was going to do an actual just. I was going to laser cut these massive fangs, and I was going to do it as a different piece sometime. But I thought, I thought it just would look good here. And as we chatted, and Yonat did a champion job. And Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, they're kind of like the fangs in life. These are, I know they all start out as good, honest things, but they quite often turn into potentially they get weaponized. And so these are for me the one set of fangs into humanity. Yeah,
and it feels like today they have just as much power as the central banks and governments around the world.
Yeah, they certainly represent a global consciousness. Yeah.
And all of the temptation as well.
Yeah, and distraction.
All right, Yonat. So now we're down to the samsara wheel of life. Do you want to talk us through this?
Yeah, so the wheel of life, so the original Buddhist idea is that we all live in the samsara, which is the everlasting mundane existence. So according to Buddhist religion, the life that we live isn't real, and we have to understand that in order to, so the purpose of the religion is like to ascend to nirvana, to understand that what we see is just in the reality we create, and it's connected to our ego, and we have to kind of lose our ego and lose our attachments to the world and be in a better, happier place, which is nirvana. And then the wheel of samsara is actually, so the yama itself, the Bhavacakra, is something that's it's like a painting that's outside of every Buddhist monastery. So it's kind of like, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's kind of the visual imagery of the samsara itself. And then the wheel explains it. So the middle of the wheel is, so if you go down, there's the first layer, which is the middle, which is what actually keeps us inside the suffering. So in the original one, it's anger, ignorance, and attachment, which ignorance means like the ignorance of not knowing that we're in the samsara. Attachment is that we get attached to, the people we love, the things we want, and it keeps us also inside the day-to-day life. And anger. So we took the whole idea of the samsara, of this mundane existence, but took it into like the fiat system. So what leaves us inside the fiat samsara, the fiat system? So in our interpretation, the anger, so we have anger, ignorance, and attachment, where attachment is the money itself. So, we're attached to this fiat system. We think this is just what money is, but when you look back at history and in general you learn about money and economics, you know that money it's just a value system, right? It's not something that's real. I mean, in the end, this is paper that we give value to. So it's a story kind of, and we're attached to that story of fiat, but we can't change the story. And so the idea here is that, the fiat samsara is the story of fiat, but we can change the story and change that thing that we use to exchange value into Bitcoin. And then the anger is war, war, and there's ignorance that leaves us inside the cycle, which is television propaganda with, all social media, the things we hear on the news. Wars, the powers that be use wars in a very, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and, they use it to control society with fear. And so it's kind of like the three things that are used to control society today. So
Yep.
they're like three poisons in the middle.
Right.
And then the second layer, so the second layer in the original Bhavacakra is the karma layer. So karma is action. So it's what keeps you. So when you're in the samsara, you can be in different kinds of realms. That's the third wheel that we're going to talk about. But so you can be born as an animal, as a human being, as a god, as a rock, right? You can be born into whatever kind of form of being in this world. And that depends on your karma. So if you did good things in your life and you understand and you meditated and you understand and you kind of learned about this world, you can ascend to a higher realm. But if you did bad things, you can ascend to a lower realm, which would be harder to then understand the truth and come out to nirvana. So that's the original one. And we took that and said, okay, but the understanding of things in life, also especially with money and society, because this wheel is less on an individual level and more on a society level. So we kind of took it into like, what are the things that affect us as a society as well, to go up or down. And we were both kind of inspired by, so Brendan Quinton, he wrote an article about the fourth turning and kind of compared it to Bitcoin. So the fourth turning is this theory that every 100 years, so every generation, the world or society changes. This is about American society, but you can kind of look at it in other societies as well. But that every generation, every 100 years, there's a shift in society and there's some kind of difference, and it works through generations. So every 25 years, he says, or the two that wrote the fourth turning, William Strauss and Neil Howe, they wrote this theory about the generations. So every 25 years, there's a generation that's born. So the generation, for example, the 100 years we're living in now started after the Second World War. So the first generation that grew up after the World War grew up into this time where, their parents were after a war. They wanted, just give me an easy life, picket fence, the 50s, just, leave me alone about ideologies and everything. And then the kids that grew up then grew up to be the revolutionaries of the 60s and 70s. And according to that theory, it's not a coincidence that in the 60s and 70s, was the hippie revolution, the protest against the Vietnam War, and it basically says that these, this is typical things that happen through generations. In the 80s and the 90s is kind of this after the Cultural Revolution, there's this time where it's, it's still happening, but kind of in decline. And what's happening now is a crisis situation. So if you compare it 100 years back, it's like the two world wars. And when you look at it now, it's like whatever's happening now with inflation, with money, with COVID, with everything, we're kind of going into a crisis situation where institutions don't, lose their credibility. And so anyway, we kind of took that and put that in the second layer. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth generations are the four things that you see that they, the first one is the spring, and they say that each generation has a different characteristic. So the generation after the World War was the spring, and they were prophets. So you can read about this in what we wrote, but generally each generation, the prophets, the nomads, the heroes, and the artists is like the kind of character that comes out of that generation.
Very cool.
Can I just if I highly recommend people just go and Google Brandon. If you haven't read it, it's Brandon Crittam, Bitcoin and the Rhythms of History. It's a hell of an article. I find it so inspirational, but it's well worth the read. And so it makes you think that the time that we're in right now is so it's I don't know, it blows my mind that we've got articles and kind of intelligence from guys like this who are seeing like the seculums, the turnings, that this happens every 4 generations, that there's this massive upheaval and change, and it's beautifully written, and and Brandon's written a piece for how Bitcoin kind of fits into this theory, and you can go back in history and see this is repeated and repeated. So we write in many ways. It feels like history is written for us, but it's also we're writing our own history. So how we come out of this, the bit that kind of triggered me was like, if Ray Kurzweil, who talks about the singularity, things gets faster and faster and faster, like the change. How do we project out of the current situation that we're in, where it does look like we're in this 50-50, a coin flip between totalitarian big brother, the sci-fi writers of the 40s and that, they couldn't have written a more dystopian future. This was just, or do we head for something that is more utopian? Because whichever way we go, we're going to go rapidly. Suddenly, was it suddenly then all of it? Was it gradually then suddenly?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's an important point. Yeah, sorry, mate, go on.
No, I was just going to say it just made me realize as you were talking about it that for me personally, and I imagine I'm not alone, that was one of the most welcoming things about Bitcoin is, before understanding Bitcoin, I studied artificial intelligence and, read a bunch of sci-fi books, and it is all very dystopian, and it gives you the sense of hopelessness. And then after discovering Bitcoin, you realize that society on a Bitcoin standard does offer the potential for a much brighter future. And it's just, having that renewed sense of hope for the future. Like if you're not already all into Bitcoin, like that was the tipping point for me.
Yeah. And the detail that Yonat put on here, the trees, as above, so below. I love that connection between those two layers. Like the tree of life, it's not quite the tree of life, but the trees in between each of the pieces, those trees grow out of that, what happens in that center there. So Yeah, it's a nice touch.
Beautiful. All right. And now the third layer, the 6 worlds.
Yeah, so the 6 realms is yeah, we said that what, the karma or the things that you do in life are the things that decide if you are reborn, in what realm you're reborn into. So in the original one, there's the human realm. There's three realms that are the upper realms, that are like the good realms, or that happiness is bigger than suffering. And there's the 3 lower realms that suffering is greater than happiness. And so we kind of took that. We did the 6 realms of being or not being a Bitcoiner. So the 3 upper realms are people who own Bitcoin, but are we differentiated it into 3 realms. So the first realm is, you can go down. The first realm is, originally this is the God realm. So this is the realm where life is really good. You're reborn as a god, but it's harder for you to reach nirvana because life is so good. So you're attached to the good of it. In our interpretation, we did this of like the maximalist realm. So we did, the citadel. That we took people so we differentiated the maximalists, or people that are like understand Bitcoin, believe in it, do everything they can to promote it and to explain it. And then we have the human realm that I'll talk about in a second. But so this is basically the maximalist realm. So we have the miner on the right, that's standing on a full node. On the left, we have the hodler, which is the Roman god Atlas.
Yeah.
He's like holding the celestial spheres, but for us, he was like the hodler, holding. It's a god that represents, the ability to endure things that are hard. So
it feels like the weight of the world sometimes.
Yeah. So that was So we thought it was perfect to be, to represent the hodler. And in the middle we have like the sculpture. It's like this is like the citadel outside. So there's a citadel in the background, and there's people stacking sats. There's the rabbit here. As we said, in the 6 realms, there's a rabbit in each one, because in the original samsa, in the original painting, there is a Buddha in each realm. So here we did a rabbit in each one, and this one has laser eyes, so he's like full on. We have the rocket going to the moon, and the sculpture in the middle of the miner and the whale, that were early Bitcoin adopters and are still here.
And I see a few sat stackers. Is that right?
Yeah, those are all sat stackers. We did
Staying
the orange.
humble.
Awesome.
And then the next realm, so we said the 3 realms are the ones that own Bitcoin. So the demigod realm. So originally, this is the realm of demigods. So they are like half gods. So their life is good, but there's still a lot of like drama and jealousy. And so we took this realm into people that own Bitcoin, but it's more for trading. So it's more to get more fiat. So Bitcoin is a way to get richer in fiat, kind of.
Right.
So they have Bitcoin, but it's not, it's for a different cause. So we have the whales there, the trading. The rabbit has been flipped and is drinking champagne and smoking. We have the Lambos, the stacks of dollars, and just the condo on the beach.
And it looks like the whale's jumping a little too close to shore, and at risk of becoming beached.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and then so the human realm is the realm in the original Bhavacakra. The human realm is the realm that we're in, that we're humans, and that it's easiest to ascend to nirvana. So it's the easiest to understand that we're in like this suffering world, and we can understand that we can leave and that we can stop our suffering. So we took this into people that are right now using Bitcoin, that understand it on a practical level. So I think for most of us that live in Western, in democratic, quote unquote, countries, we don't need Bitcoin right now, right? I mean, we all have a bank account. We can live without Bitcoin, but we understand it, and but this realm is about people, if it's people that live in countries with very high inflation that actually use Bitcoin right now for the purposes that we believe it's important. Or political activists, or it's kind of like we put that in this realm. So you have the refugees in the boat, you have the Hong Kong protester. The person on the left is a woman that's cutting her strings of like fiat debt, and cutting the strings of this, the life,
The
debt to,
corporatocracy.
yeah. There's like the pleb stacking sats. The coin that he has there is a Libertas coin. So this is a coin it was called a Libertas coin. It was a coin that was minted in the Roman Empire by civilians. Actually, it was kind of like a freedom of the people coin, and it has Libertas is the goddess of liberty. So they minted that coin. That was kind of like a reference to that this is the coin of the people. Again, looking back at history, it's not the first time there was the coin of the people. So just to remember that, and that's kind of reference to that. And then in the back, there's activists that fought for human liberties. There's Julian Assange. And these are all quotes that they actually said, the ones that are written on their
signs there.
Their signs there.
Yeah.
So Emmeline Pankhurst from the suffragettes, that fought for women's rights. Martin Luther King, that fought for, Black American, the American Civil Rights Movement. The fourth one is Maximilien Robespierre, if I'm pronouncing that right, which was from the French Revolution, and Mahatma Gandhi. And there's the world, the globe in the middle that's like half sinking and half trying to float. And Chief, you can explain the bunny signs.
And no, I just want to send a bit of love to Mahatma Gandhi. It's just funny that this is the man who kind of led the peaceful revolution to kick the British out of their country. And it's just quite funny that the British were also responsible for the modern day banking system that we have. We're a great country in many, many ways, but we're also responsible for an awful lot of atrocity. So I'm proud to be British, but I'm not proud for a lot of our history. The old it's just it's Douglas Adams, isn't it? If Douglas Adams only put in the halvening, I think maybe he is Satoshi, but the answer to the secret to life, universe, and everything is 42. And then if you add the halving, some of the most important, it's the most important. A couple of coders have told me that that's the most important part of the Bitcoin code. Well, it's their favorite part.
Right.
And I love that. So and you just have to get 21. So it's just a nice little bit of poetry.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the last little bit about that is the cuckoo bird, which is like a reference to there was a Greek play that's called The Birds, that's about these two Athenians that were kind of fed up with taxes and regulation and everything that was happening in the city, and they went and they came to the leader of the birds, and they told him that they want to create this new world between Earth and the sky. and to create this like utopia. And the leader of the birds looked at the messenger bird that brought them to him, and was like, "Are these people crazy?" And the messenger bird said, "No, they're the sanest people I know."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this phrase, actually, it's called, I think a lot of us have heard of cloud cuckoo land, like you're living in cuckoo land, because this phrase from this play was taken into politics to like put down someone who wants to shake the system. So like Margaret Thatcher famously said about Nelson Mandela that if anyone thinks that a party that is led by Black people is going to rule South Africa is living in cloud cuckoo land. So it's kind of like a phrase that was used politically to talk about like a crazy, stupid idea, but it's really about getting out of the system and creating a better one.
What I love about the cuckoo is it's also representative of much of our language that gets changed by the mainstream media, propaganda. The word anarchism, you know when someone's been brainwashed when you say, "What does anarchism mean to you?" And then they say, "Oh, it means chaos and mayhem." Well, if you actually go and even look at the Wikipedia page, it explains to you that there is actually organ within ism. Do you know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with the mainstream's message. So that word has been trashed now. You can't say you're an anarchist. And I'm not saying Bitcoin is about anarchism. It's not. It's something completely different. But it's I'm just saying the cuckoo is so much of our language has been changed. Or if it's a word, freedom, you can guarantee that the establishment will change the meaning of that through their own propaganda.
It's such a good point how the narratives around these words and a lot of these figures that you have displayed here, how if you're not paying attention, they can get shifted into bad light. But deep down and over time, they're a lot of times proven to be way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Right. Bottom left.
So bottom left is the ignorant realm. So we did this as kind of like the realm of people that haven't necessarily heard of Bitcoin. So they're living in that, that debt cycle, work slavery. I go to work, I pay my bills, I try to finish the month, and that's just how life is, kind of. And so we did hear the Sisyphus. So he was a king that was condemned to roll a huge stone up a hill just for it to come down again. And that kind of represents that, I go to work, I get paid, pay my bills, I have nothing left, do it again, kind of that debt cycle. We have people here living in a gilded cage, because I think a lot of people, even if they have a job or a life that's kind of convenient, it's still easier to live in that convenient life. I'll watch my TV, I'll do my day-to-day life, and I'm gonna stay in my cage and I don't want to know what's going on around or change it, or I'm just comfortable in my cage, kind of.
Yep.
And the rabbit here is the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland that keeps, crazily going like, I'm late.
Ah, love that reference.
Yeah. And then the hell realm is the realm of people that are living in totalitarian regimes. This is kind of like the realm that represents, that freedom is completely gone. So if before, we can use Bitcoin to change society and to change what we want, then this realm is the realm of so there's no more free thought and free speech and free, and privacy and freedom of press, and it kind of represents people living in totalitarian regimes today, but also in a way where we can go if we don't actively do something to change what's happening today. Because the internet and it's kind of things that we're seeing that are happening, that our liberties are being taken away, and the internet is really facilitating that. So that's kind of
it's amazing. There's examples for all of these freedoms that we have been taken away in one, or attacked one way or another. But the one that sort of jumps out to me on this is it's thought. If you've ever listened to there's the Yuval Noah Harari. He was fairly new to me, and Yonat introduced me to him. Actually, I'm surprised I hadn't come across him sooner. But the fact that the AI and through the video, through voice, is so it can be getting so advanced, but they can already detect like how you're feeling as a person. And for example, if you've got your smart speaker working, and you've got your TV with the camera that's on the TV, and whilst the elections are going, if your beloved leader is saying delivering their speech, those devices together can actually monitor your emotions. So you go, oh yeah, that's great, but inside you're feeling, that's fucking shit, I hate this leader, this guy should go. You don't even have to be vocalizing it. The systems are becoming so advanced that they can detect how you're truly feeling. So it's quite a terrifying realization, but that's the power of technology today. It has that ability. I'm not saying that's the reality right this second, but that's you go and listen to anything that Yuval Harari talks about, and you can see where technology, how it can be really weaponized against the human. So and that's a funny thing about the whole of the samsara. When we're going through all of this, we're going, holy shit, this is really quite a depressing piece. Where's the joy? But that is the point. It's like, it's an uncomfortable truth, life.
Absolutely.
Or our current situation. We're, like I said, we're at this pivotal moment, and we have to deal with these issues. We have to face them and educate people. Otherwise, we won't wake up. We won't get enlightened. So,
Well, it's so important to highlight this, because, like, just as you're talking through this, I'm thinking, and what all the words you have here: press, thought, speech, liberty, privacy. Like, these are our basic rights as humans, and slowly you can feel the narratives around each of these shifting again to where it's like, like privacy. If you ask the random person on the street if they should have privacy, many of them wouldn't know what to say. And you go down the line, and it's like, thoughts are getting censored left and right. And next thing you know, liberty. What do we deserve? Liberty, right? Like, there's no stopping the taking away of these rights if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, the thing is that they're taking away, they're being taken away little by little, and then you don't really notice it.
Yep,
that's it. And even blatantly, like, the amount of people who don't understand the Julian Assange case, like, they think he's a rapist. That's why he's in prison. Do you know what I mean? It's like, holy shit. Well, you still think he's a rapist? They're like, twice they try to reopen up that case, and the authorities just said, listen, there is no rape. The women, they don't want to, they're not testifying. One of them's done a runner, and the other says she wished she never got involved, and yet this guy's in prison, and it's got nothing to do with that. That's gone. That's history. Like, he's clearly there because he expels the truth, and he shines light on the truth, and you can't do that in this day and age. So anyone who thinks we live in a free society with privacy, liberty, free speech, free press, they're the ones in the modern day understanding. They're the ones on cloud cuckoo land.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So go on, let's move on. Let's
There's so much here. We could talk for hours on any one of these sectors.
Look at this guy. He is the epitome.
The perfect conversation piece.
He's the
And
ultimate
invite
Bitcoin villain, isn't it? We have the
Yeah,
best
the
villains.
Bitcoin bad boss. It's just fuck me. He's atrocious.
So why is he here? Why did you include him here?
next time, I think you like this round, Chief. Go for it.
Oh yeah, no. Well, yeah. We should have made Mr. Monopoly guy fatter, shouldn't we? He is the boss of the big bad bank, but yeah.
What? Just in case
It's
anyone's not
basically,
familiar, this is Augustus. What's his name?
oh god, I always have to Google it because I always
Well,
say
the name's not important.
I always say the kid out of he's like the Augustine who's out of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you know. So he's the CEO of the Bank of International Settlements, and
Right.
yeah. So just to scroll down, his name's Augustus, not Augustine. But yeah, just pushing. It's just like the gold beef. So the beetles are an old Egyptian sort of symbol. Scarabs, the most wealthy, they really worshipped the scarab. But the scarab, just ironically, was also a dung beetle, and they were just pushing around shit all day. So this is kind of like the Bank in International Settlements pushing around shit, having a shit and taking a shit and rolling money and working your asses. It's shit money. It's a shit coin.
Oh, that's so perfect.
So the rabbit here, Yonat did a sort of an origami version of folding up the rabbits in the fiat note. So yeah, go on, roll that sort of. Do what the scarab beetle does, and
The buildings also are, so the middle building is the central bank of the European Central Bank. The left one is the Chinese Central Bank, and the right one is the American Federal Reserve.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, great touch.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
The fourth layer.
The fourth layer is the 12 links of dependent origination. So the fourth layer is actually the explanation of what happens in our day-to-day lives that keep us in the samsara. So in the original one, it would be being born, going through childhood, getting married, like all these things that, oh, this is just how life is, and I have to follow the pattern, and this is what, it's kind of the things that happen to you in life that keep you in the samsara. And we did it like the things that keep you in the fiat samsara, the things that keep you in the system and make you kind of blind to how it's controlling you and to not want to get out of it. So the first one is consumerism. So consumerism, actually, we think it's part of our day-to-day life. Like, you want to go out, buy things, get a new car, get new clothes. There's, every season there's a new sale. But actually, consumerism is a new thing. I mean, consumerism, the definition of it is wanting more than we actually need. And it's something that was started in the Industrial Revolution when more products were being made, when capitalism started to be the ideology to go after, or the economic way to go after. And the idea was that to grow the economy, like in America after the war, you were actually helping America and being patriotic because you were spending money. You were like growing the economy by buying things. And this is kind of like, the new, it's something we're used to. We're all used to like going and buying things and whatever. But the idea here is that it's what keeps you again in this fiat samsara, because it's also part of fiat, right? Fiat in the end, it incentivizes this because that the dollar you have today, or the euro, the pound, or the yen, or whatever that you have today is going to be worth less in the future. So I might as well spend it today.
Yep.
Bitcoin is the opposite.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Before Bitcoin, you just assume that that's the way things have to be, right?
Right.
That the money needs to incentivize spending and consumerism, but Bitcoin teaches us that there is an alternative.
Exactly. The second one is lack of education. So lack of education, the idea is that, the whole system we're in, we think, oh, we're going to send our kids to school and they're going to get a good education. But the idea is that, the education in most public systems in most of the world is pretty, there's an agenda there by the government, to keep kids. The educational systems that are used today are like 150 years old and haven't been changed. And it was this education system that teaches kids to sit down, do their work, not move for 8 hours, to be good workers, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then also in university, we took the idea that, you learn economics and don't learn about the Federal Reserve, for example. So, the educational system is basically a way to, again, put you inside, the system again.
Yeah.
And we just took the iconic Pink Floyd, The Wall image that probably everybody knows or should know if they don't.
We couldn't help but also use the soundtrack from Brick in the Wall.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. And when we make the video, the ad, the promo videos for a piece, it's like you got to have a banging soundtrack. I think it's really important, and this is just perfect. And Roger Waters is I wish I got a personal sort of what do you call it, admittance to using the original music. So we've had to use a cover, but he's one of the very few like rock stars or high profile people out there who actually champion humanitarian rights. There's so few of the celebrities, and it just makes an absolute hypocrisy. Who are the celebrities? Why are there not more celebrities talking about Bitcoin and its point, and the musicians especially, and so I personally have a particular love for Pink Floyd, and and Roger Waters, and for the message that they've been putting out for years. One of the walking the talk. So
Beautiful. All right.
And then the next one is division, so two-party politics. The idea here is that, there's divide and conquer is a very old political technique to, I'm going to divide the population that I want to control. I'll divide it to the most, the smallest groups. So none of these groups can be stronger than I am. It's always that saying that as a group we can create a revolution, but the idea with divide and conquer is I'm going to create as many groups that hate each other, so they never come together against the powers that be. So we have the powers that be here, who's like the people that control the world, or the people that own the money, which is like the banker on the highest stack of money, and then on his left are his puppet politicians. And then there's the left and the right, the blue, red.
It's a two-party politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's part of me, like the thing I disturbs me in the world today is two-party politics. They don't actually deal with real policies. They just talk about talking points and what's going to win in the next election. With two-party politics, you don't need to have two parties. Look at the way Bitcoin works. Bitcoin is essentially a decentralized autonomous organization. It is a DAO, and that's what personally, another term might be used is liquid democracy, which was the idea of liquid democracy is around way before Bitcoin, and that's a whole new other area to talk about. But you divide the people in two, you give them something to argue about, and that causes distraction. You don't actually need to solve anything that they do, or you give them a few things that they like, and that wins you their popularity, but whatever. But you don't deal with the real issues of the world, of running a happy, peaceful society. So yeah, that's division. That's divide and conquer. The Romans were brilliant at it, So
oh yeah.
It's not a new tactic.
It creates the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
We feel like we have a choice and we have power, when the reality is it's behind the two-party system, the central bankers are the ones really in control and no one's paying attention.
Exactly. Yeah. So
kind of revolt against them, then you'll notice there's always, let's put in a bit of fuel on the race thing, or on the race issues, or on whatever, on religion, or whatever is needed to put fuel on to distract from whatever has been exposed right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the next one is social engineering. This is kind of like the effect that social media has on us. We've become addicted to all these, to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Each person with their social media choice, but in the end, these are algorithms that are very, very sophisticated already, and they know how to work the human psyche in a way that makes you look at your phone all day, and create this reality that isn't really real. In the end, you're in an echo chamber, and you want all this feedback, and it's kind of like we did that. How the phone affects the human being in the middle, and how what you can see on social media. Sometimes you can scroll through social media, but it's not really these people's life for real. No, it's kind of all of a that makes you feel a certain way, like, oh, my life's shit, but everybody's so happy. Or
the other thing is, like, a lot of people think they're not being affected because I'm just looking at my phone, right? It's not really affecting me. But the point is that everybody's being affected, and your friends' opinions of what they see are being affected from what they see. So when they chat to you in real life, they're somewhat affected by what they've read through their social media. And if these channels have the ability to sway their opinion one way or another, or you're going to be affected by peer pressure. Do you know what I mean? And not just straight through the phone, but in real life too. Their opinions are affected by what they've experienced online. So and then that goes back to these companies. So yeah, that's it's a multi-layered. I love this image because.
So I was just going to say this is the perfect visualization, because it's so easy to feel like this crunched up person in the center here.
Yeah, if you have a different opinion from the mainstream, you're made to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something not right about that. But, yeah.
All right.
So what's the next one?
So the next one is. So this is the four horsemen of the four modern horsemen of the apocalypse. So there's the four horsemen of the apocalypse that come from the Christian faith, which basically are the ones that will bring, the end of the world. And we kind of took that to, this is like the culture of fear. So we can see that a lot today. It's also like a political technique of, I'm going to create a lot of fear. If before it was terrorism, now it's COVID, and whatever it is, I'm going to create fear and then use that to control or put all kinds of sanctions or do whatever I want with this fear. So fear makes people not think. It makes them emotional. Like, I'm so scared, just tell me what to do. I'll take anything, just save me, kind of. So we did the four modern horsemen, which is like war. The first one is holding a gun. So like terrorism, the drug war. Oh, he's holding a big a joint and has pills. um, and climate catastrophe and viruses. And this has been, Stephen Levy in his book, he did a book about the crypto, the cypherpunks, about how the code rebels beat the government. And he uses that statement is actually from his book. He calls them the four modern horsemen of the apocalypse. It was the way to fight. It was the way of the government to fight against privacy on the internet. So they wanted to implement backdoors in the internet and to not have any privacy. And the flag that they waved in Congress was the flag of but there's criminals and there's terrorism and there's drugs and we have to save the people, and that's why nobody should have privacy.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the culture of fear that's used to control in the end.
Yep, totally see it.
And then the next one is work slavery. So again, we kind of talked about it in the Hungry Ghost in the realm with the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. Just this is like people going off the metro, in the rat race. They're in the rat wheel, clinging to a ball and chain of debt, and just kind of walking. I painted a few rats there, kind of, like walking to work, doing your job, getting paid, spending it all, and again.
It reminds me of my old commute right here.
Yeah. I lived in London for a decade, and I can just remember seeing one of the stations. I was one level up, just seeing all these people flood out of the train and then down into deeper down into the subway, and there was almost like a spiral of ants. It was just all suited up, just and very gormless people. And yeah, it was crazy. And I don't know, it was one of my standout memories from London, and I love London, but it's just people, they just look so drained. Rat race, got to be a rat to win a rat race, right?
Absolutely.
So the next one is central banking. So again, we talked about this a little bit, but this is just how the central banks kind of control everything. So this painting is actually based on a painting that's called Corrupt Legislation. It's a painting that's in the main reading room in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. So it's kind of based on that. It's almost exactly the same, except that we put the banker inside, again, the monopoly man, and the sign of the Bank of International Settlements, that he's the one that's actually controlling, the central banks control everything that's happening. And like we've seen before, if they go into trouble, they'll get bailed, and we're all going to pay for it. The person on the right in the original painting also is a lawyer. So he has a book on his lap that is the law, actually. And there's, if you can see, but the banker is holding like a scale, and the lawyer is putting money on the scale. So, the law is negotiable depending on, depending on how much is on the scale, we can change the law for the banker. And then there's the girl on the right that has nothing is like, hey, but what can I do in here? And basically nothing.
Right.
So this is like a government of the bank, by the bank, for the bank, instead of of the people, by the people, for the people.
Absolutely.
And the next one is the inflation, monetary policy, and the Cantillon effect. So this is like the bankers that are printing money. That's basically, especially today we can see it, the high inflation that turns money into basically toilet paper. We took the idea of shit coins, that it's just, the constant printing devaluates the money and just turns it into nothing. But there's a flow of money, so the money that's printed first goes to a certain the people that are in power, so they can use it before it devaluates. So that's kind of
Right.
like what we showed here, that the money first goes to the rich. For them, it's okay, but for the rest of us, it's basically turning into toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is free speech. So also something that we're losing. It's I think we talked about it again with the social media, that today, a lot of people use, we're afraid to say things. I find myself as well. I want to say things on Twitter, but like, should I really say this or not? So supposedly we have free speech, but we're afraid to use it because, what if something I say today is going to be used against me in the future, or even cancel culture. So what we showed here is that that invisible hand that's telling you not to speak, but also the people on social networks or the people around you that are shutting your mouth, because we're not just afraid of government or that that invisible hand. It's also that invisible hand has already created like minions in this war, that the people themselves are canceling you if you say something that's against public opinion.
Yeah, and you're talking about social media, but I notice it all the time, just with my personal relationships. When you're interacting with people who consume the mainstream narratives, uh, it's hard to really speak your mind sometimes, because you feel like you're going to be judged for having these ideas that just don't align with those narratives.
Yeah, exactly. And the next one is kind of like this, the numbing effect. Today there's so, especially now with with the lockdowns and everything, there's so many streaming channels, and we kind of use them. They're also built in a way, you watch Netflix and you watch a show and it's not even finished and it's already, the next one is starting, right? And it's kind of like it keeps you in this cycle of these, I'm just going to watch my series. I don't care what's happening in the world. Like everything is too much already. Like what can I do to change it? It's just too much. And I have all these streaming channels. I'll always have something to watch. I'll always have something to see to just distract me from what's happening. And this is also a way to, have people just numb. It's entertainment is not something new. If it was the Romans who had, animal, the gladiators, or entertaining the masses isn't a new technique. It's just become more sophisticated. So yeah, we also put like a Pink Floyd reference here. The actual song isn't really about this, but I think if we took that interpretation of the song, hello, is there anybody in there? Become comfortably numb. The original song is about something else, but it works to describe this. So. Yeah, and the next one is propaganda. So again, the reality, we all think we know the truth, but in the end, we construct the reality that we see from the news channels we decide to look at, from the phone, from the social media that we decide to look at, the people we follow, the news that we read. And sometimes you can talk to someone and it's like, what, like, are we living in the same world? You have completely different views, and you think like, how is this possible? And it's because we live in a world today that there is no, I don't know if there ever was a truth, but today it's so, everything is just manipulated. Everything is an echo chamber, and it's created this world where each person has their own truth, but we feel like our truth is the right one, right? So
what I love about this image, and also concerns me is that just also how virtual reality is taken off today. And you think, oh, well, we've got this new thing, virtual reality, and then that's untouched, isn't it? The mainstream media won't get us here, but they are. They're marching right on in there. And I think whilst I love virtual reality, I think anyone with an Oculus headset, when they approach a world where other people are in that world, you should have a big flashing warning sign above your head to say, "I am the eyes and ears of Facebook." It's a dark world. I think I've got an Oculus headset myself, and I think when I go and join these forums, you're going to see a Reckless VR meetup or something like that. They're awesome and I love it, but you are the eyes and ears of Facebook. They own everything you're experiencing, hearing and seeing in that world from your device. So I can't wait until we have an open source version of VR.
It's such a good point. I mean, not only are they the eyes and ears of the content being consumed, but I mean, take it a step further. You're wearing this headset, right? There's nothing to stop them from detecting your senses while you're seeing your pupils dilate.
That's it. Yeah. It goes back to what Yuval Harari was saying. Go and check him out. They can tell you. You could be asked questions. You could be trying. It's like a lie detector. They could be giving you one set of answers, and you could be, or questions. You could be saying, "This is the way I think about this, that, or the other," and they can detect through your eyes and your dilation of your pupils if you're telling the truth or how you really feel. Yeah. Should this person be watched? Should this person? Let's put a flag on this person. It's dark. And the thing is, if we can think of it, everyone's becoming a sci-fi writer, and anyone who understands a little bit of technology and where it's going is becoming a sci-fi writer. And the fact that we can think of it means it's going to happen, or somebody is going to weaponize it. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely,
open source AI is a big deal. So I don't want to go on too much, but that's I particularly like this picture.
Love it. Yeah.
Yonat captured it perfectly. They're all strolling on in there.
This is the last one. This is the what we're talking about, surveillance, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That right now, everything we do, we don't really feel like it. And sometimes, even if we know it in the back of our head, I think most people, they know in the back of their head and they're like, I have nothing to hide, but we're being surveilled in everything we do. And this is like a person doing meditation to kind of show that it's in the most private places. It goes really, really deep into sometimes I remember once that I thought about something, and then all of a sudden I had a notification about it in my phone, and I was like, what the like I didn't speak about it to anyone. I didn't write about it to anyone. It wasn't connected to my phone. It was just a thought that went through my head, and I remember it freaked me out. It was like, okay, is my phone already reading my mind? And
that's the thing. I mean, you don't think like you're being listened into right now, but obviously we are being listened to. We're on YouTube, but even in your most private moments, the establishment would love to know your thoughts. Do you know what I mean? And that's the meaning of this. And if they can work out a way of doing it, they'll do it.
Absolutely, the tools are there; they're at their disposal.
Yeah, and if someone can make money out of it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So, we have a drive at the moment. You listen to even our local radio telling you to listen, ask your smartphone or ask your smart speaker. Sorry, we keep getting told on the BBC radio to ask our smart speaker. It's like, if you've got a smart speaker in your home, like that thing's permanently listening to you. So So I don't know. It's nuts.
It's crazy. It's absolutely
If you're a
crazy.
smart speaker, you're not a smart person.
All right. And there we are.
Here we are.
Wow, I'm just so blown away by this. I read this piece and I've stared at the artwork for so long, but it's only after having you talk through each individual section that I feel like I can truly appreciate it. And I just, it's like I keep thinking about, the best art tells a story and is also educational. And I feel like this artwork does so much of both. Like you're telling the story of our fiat culture and the risks that it presents. And I also feel I'm getting just such an education in, again, our current state of society, but also in the possibilities of Bitcoin. And this just like, this is the type of artwork that makes you feel good to be a Bitcoiner, because of course, like number go up is great, but there's so much more deeper meaning to it, and there's so much more promise that Bitcoin can potentially offer. So wow, one of my greatest. What makes me feel really good about this is like hopefully all of these ideas that you're surfacing here, for the common person, I don't think they're aware of a lot of these. A lot of Bitcoiners are, but even I just, I learned so much just from hearing you talk through them. But hopefully, 10 years from now, this will all be common knowledge, and this piece can be looked back upon as just kind of a glimpse into our moment of time when these ideas were just being surfaced. So that's my just, I don't know, I'm just blown away by this artwork and everything that it does. And I think that's a good segue to, let's check in on the auction. So we are sitting at 5 million sats. Vizik is on top. But what I really want to highlight here is that you're doing something really special for bidders who don't necessarily win. Do you want to explain what you have lined up for the top 5 bidders?
Yeah, so everything we talked about now, we actually made a book about this. So we have a hardcover book with all the photos and all the explanations written down. And the top 5 bidders will each get one of these books. Yeah.
All right. So even if you can't be that, even if you don't have the sats to win, you can still have the sats to earn a physical representation of this artwork and all of its teachings. That's amazing. There's going to be 5 lucky participants in this auction for sure. All right. So let's see. Unless you have any closing thoughts, how about just tell us where listeners can learn more about you and what you're into these days, Chief, if you want to start.
Oh yeah, no, I'm on Twitter. I just do a search for Chiefmonkey, and there. What I'm not someone who really works with other people that well, and to do this with Yonat's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been incredibly easy. To like you say, like your art is your baby, and it's kind of hard to share your baby with somebody, and so when you've got 2 people working on something, it's like for it to go smooth and you don't have disagreements or falling out or like whatever. It's just been I've absolutely loved it, and it's given me a lot of hope for doing more collaborations in the future. So yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Awesome. Any final thoughts from you, Yonat, as well as where people can find you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, like I said before, it was really, really fun to do this. And yeah, I feel like I miss him already, the Yama.
He's leaving us. He's popping up behind Jack.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Yonat Vaks, and my website is the same, yonatvaks.com.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'm looking at the clock right now, and we've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes, and I just can't believe it. It's flown by, and I feel like I might watch this one over just because I enjoyed going through each section of this so much. So thank you so much for, first of all, creating this amazing work of art, and also for taking the time to explain it to us. There's no way to fully appreciate it any other way.
Get the book.
Get the book.
It's probably easier. Nice glossy. Take your time.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you very much, Chris.
My pleasure, and best of luck with the auction. We'll be checking in on this over the next 22 hours or so. And thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Chris. Thank you. Cheers, Yonat.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. If anyone's still listening out there, and if you are not familiar with Lightning auctions, I'll give you a quick rundown one more time. If you want to place a bid and take Vizik off the leaderboard, or if you want to compete for one of the top 5 spots to win the book with the full explanations, come down here, input your bid in sats, and put your email address. If it's your first bid with that email address, you'll input a display name. Then you'll be directed to pay an invoice for the collateral, which is just a small percentage of your bid. At the end of the auction, the highest bidder, they have 24 hours to pay their remaining balance. Once the item is paid for, everybody gets their collateral back. So it's a temporary deposit that you're making. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are participating, or if you're just enjoying being a spectator, join our Telegram group, Scarce City Banter. The links are easy to find in our Twitter profile. That's where all of the bidders, after placing their bid, they're doing their trash talking, throwing their memes around. And we'll also be giving away some sats over Lightning in there if you're an active participant. So come join us. The next 22 hours should be really exciting. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon.